Good morning. If you want to grab your coffee and come take a seat, we will get started. So welcome to 1 Million Cups, Kansas City. Thank you for working with us today. I know parking is a little hectic because the Kauffman Foundation is full this morning. So thank you again for your patience and thank you for joining us. My name is Courtney. I'm a community organizer along with Milton, Toby, Britton, and Brian. So we'd like to... Sorry, technical difficulties on our side. I would like to first introduce our expert panel this morning. Mike, Stephanie, if you want to say hello. The mic's behind you.
I'm on now. I'm Stephanie Zamora. I'm a small business owner here in the Kansas City area. My husband and I own a security company. We do access control, fire alarms, security systems, and things like that. A lot of it for schools, all for commercial businesses. I previously worked at KC SourceLink and then ran the business incubator in Independence. And so I love business and I love any opportunity I can to chat with other small business owners and startups.
My name is Mike Meyer. Part of a family business here in Kansas City, Meyer Music. My family's been doing it for 50 years. So that's pretty much about me. I love coming here. I've been coming here for about 2 or 3 years now, or however long it's been going. So
3.
So I've been a 3-year veteran. So
Thank you. Okay, who is here for the first time? Anyone? Thank you for coming. 1 Million Cups is a weekly entrepreneurial program. We are here every Wednesday at 9, so we hope that you will join us again. I guess we are ready to get started. I would like to welcome Jennifer Rosenblatt with Music Spoke. I will say she is a 1MC organizer in Omaha, and she is very involved with the community, and so she's traveling here to present today, so we are glad to have you.
Thank you. Better? We have this one? Yes? Great. Music Spoke is building the world's largest marketplace for artist-owned sheet music. This is my husband, Kurt, pictured next to the world-famous composer and conductor, Andre Thomas. Now, like Andre, Kurt is a composer. In fact, Kurt has sold over 100,000 copies of his music worldwide. And this sounds really big, right? Well, unfortunately, because Kurt sold his music through a traditional publisher, he's lost out on over 90% of the revenue generated from the sale of his music. In addition to that, he's had to sign over the copyrights to his original works, so he no longer has control over his pieces. And in addition to all of that, publishers never really tell Kurt who's buying his music, so he has no idea where it's being performed or who's performing it. In fact, Kurt recently had a performance at Carnegie Hall, and he had no idea until Andre tagged him in a photo on Facebook. So the current situation with traditional publishers looks something like this. If you are a composer and you submit your music to a publisher, right off the bat, over 90% of the music never sees the light of day. And this is because some publishers won't even accept a piece unless they think it will sell 5,000 copies in the first year. Now, if your piece does get accepted, it goes through a lengthy process of review and editing, printing, warehousing, distribution. It could end up online or in a brick and mortar, and ultimately in the hands of the end user who is never fully known to the composer, with very little of the revenue being returned back to the composer. Now, this whole process could take anywhere from 12 to 24 months. Traditional publishers keep copyrights. They take copyrights and control away from composers. They keep 90% or more of the revenue, and they don't share who's purchasing and performing the music. Airbnb, Etsy, and Uber have already democratized entire industries by creating peer-to-peer marketplaces. Airbnb did this with lodging, Etsy with handmade goods, and Uber with transportation. Music Spoke has done this for performance music and the sheet music industry. The Music Spoke marketplace allows composers to maintain their profiles, upload their scores, and connect directly with the conductors and music educators looking to purchase and perform their music. And the Music Spoke solution is simple. We connect composers directly with those end users, conductors, and music educators looking to purchase their music, and we return a majority of the revenue right back to the composer. Our composers love Music Spoke because it allows them to retain their copyrights and control over their works. They can earn up to 70% of the sales revenue, and they know immediately who is purchasing and performing their music. So it's pretty easy to see how we solve the seller side of the market, but we are a dual-sided marketplace. So what about the buyers? Who are they? What do they look like? Well, they look like the Chiara String Quartet, formerly in residence at Harvard and Juilliard, now in residence at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. They look like Grammy Award-winning conductor Charles Bruffy of the Kansas City Chorale and the Phoenix Chorale. And they look like Jill Burchett. She's a music educator. She's director of choral studies at the University of Northern Colorado. And what do our buyers want? Well, overwhelmingly, they told us that they want to be able to hear and see the entire score before they purchase a piece. And then when they do purchase it, they want immediate access to it. They don't want to wait for printing or shipping or back orders. And that's what we built for them. Every score has its own page at the Music Spoke marketplace, and we link to SoundCloud and YouTube files so you can actually watch and listen to a live performance. And while you're listening, you can preview the entire score, and once you purchase it, it's available for immediate digital download. So Music Spoke is primarily B2B, and there are over 450,000 purchasing institutions in the United States alone. And this includes every educational institution from elementary school to university. It includes church and civic ensembles, and it includes professional performance groups. Now, each one of these institutions already has a budget for purchasing sheet music that ranges from $500 to $20,000 a year. In fact, they spend over $1 billion a year on sheet music in the United States alone, and this is a global market. So when Jill goes online to buy her favorite score from composer Kurt, Music Spoke retains 30% of all the transactions. So some key milestones in our development. Last summer, we were one of only 7 teams accepted into the NMotion Accelerator program in Lincoln, Nebraska. After doing customer development and validation, I personally built the MVP, and we were able to launch in 52 days. This took us to demo day with a live working MVP and sales and customers. In October of last year, we were awarded a prototyping grant from the state of Nebraska to continue our work. In February of this year, we attended a national convention of the American Choral Directors Association, where we were enthusiastically received. And a lot of composers that we spoke to last summer who weren't ready to come on board yet came to us and said, I've been watching what you're doing with Music Spoke, and I'm ready to come on board now. This led to us doubling in size in March, and by the end of June, we exceeded our Q2 goals. In fact, we've been growing about 30% month over month since then. We're already forming strategic partnerships with national organizations, performance groups, and nonprofits that have a stable of composers on board looking for additional ways to monetize their scores. Some recent highlights include our 2-time Grammy Award-winning conductor getting ready to launch his inaugural series on Music Spoke. Also, 2-time Grammy Award-winning South African Soweto Gospel Choir recently launched their series on Music Spoke and sold over 600 copies of their piece in the first 2 weeks. And we've actually had 2 composers offer deals by major publishers and have turned them down to keep their piece on Music Spoke. This is the team. Dr. Kurt Connect is our industry insider. He's a composer, conductor, performer, and music educator, and he gives us access to composers and conductors and musicians. My background is business. I already have an SBA award-winning business that I built from scratch, and it's the combination of our strengths that gives Music Spoke its secret sauce. So now when we talk to a new composer or conductor, they say, Music Spoke, you're all the buzz in the industry. And we're excited to be leading the change in this industry, and we're really excited to be doing it from right here in the Midwest. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. All right, we're going to kick it off with our panelist. Mike, go ahead.
Good morning. I got to tell you, I've been coming here for a long time, and I was very, very, very impressed with everything I saw. I spent a lot of time on your site last night. So I'm incredibly impressed with the fact that you've spent time on the site. So many people, that's an afterthought. It's optimized for mobile properly. The only thing that struck me out of the whole thing was at checkout. Most of the pieces that I saw was $2. And when you checked out, you automatically defaulted to one in your cart. My thought is that as anybody sitting there as an educator or a conductor, they know how many copies they're going to need of that piece, and that should be offered up a little earlier in the process versus when they have to go to checkout and then you've prompted them to say, don't forget,
Right.
you need to get more licenses here.
Right.
So I think if you prompted the customer along, you would probably increase the numbers they're going to buy right out of the gate, and then they can also see what budget they're spending. Because I know as teachers are sitting at their desks looking at this, they're constantly thinking about the budget. But it's a fantastic idea. You know, the print music industry is in peril right now. They are running scared, and I think you are going to probably make them run a lot more scared. But I also think that may provide an opportunity for you from a licensing perspective with the large publishing houses, because nobody has that good of a setup where you can hear it, you can see it, you can do all those things. So I think you're fantastic. My one question for you was, what are you gonna? How does a composer break through? Because the larger you get, the larger the catalog gets, the way it's laid out with the pictures and the circles and everything. How do they break through and get found as opposed to just kind of getting lost in that big group?
That's a great question. And initially, because we had to start somewhere and we wanted to build the reputation of the site, we started with composers who are already known in the industry. And these are composers that people are already looking for. So they bring with them their own fan base who is searching for their music. They might be promoting their own music through Facebook or through their own website, and they're directing people to Music Spoke to purchase it. So initially, that's not as much of a problem. Now, we're actually working on building out version 2.0 of the platform. And in that, we will have more, we have ratings and reviews built in now, but it will be more robust. Search features will also be more robust so that a lot of times we hear educators program by text, and they want to be able to search by the entire text of the piece. So text search will be built into it as well. And we're also getting ready to launch our curated content pages. So we have 5 top name conductors who are picking their top 10 list, and they will be promoting pieces as well. We also do a score of the week feature, and then in version 2.0, we'll build in more of those suggestion algorithms that say, I see you like this piece by this composer. You might also like this piece by that composer. And that's how we combat that.
I'm going to piggyback on that question. I would also love to be able to see the percentage of downloads. So if something is more popular, it can go a little bit more viral naturally rather than it being the artist that's pushing it. I also loved the website. I thought it was really clean, gave a really good opportunity to connect with the composers. But I was missing a little bit of detail on the join page. What does that mean to join? What is your next step? So I think just a little bit of content on the side that lets people know you're going to get a username or something, what happens after that,
Gotcha.
and what join really means. Okay. Then my next question is on marketing.
Yes.
You talked a lot about how you were attracting composers, which I think is great, but you have 2 prongs for your marketing strategy. What is your strategy for reaching more buyers?
So we have a couple of channels of marketing. We have a very heavy content creation inbound marketing strategy. So we have a blog post that goes out every day. Sometimes it's featuring a score, featuring a composer. Sometimes it's industry information that's really important to music educators or to conductors. Sometimes it's gifs of my husband making fun of conductors. So it's entertaining as well as informing. And we actually see about 60% of our referral traffic coming from social media because of this inbound marketing strategy. The other place we reach them is through conferences. educators still go to conferences. In fact, Kurt is attending the Nebraska Choral Directors Association conference this week. We'll be down in Texas next week for TCDA. And we actually hit both sides of our market at these conferences because composers are there to connect with the conductors and music educators, and the educators and conductors are there to learn about new music and purchase new music. So we actually run reading sessions of Music Spoke pieces where people sing through the pieces and they get to take sample scores home with them, and this is how we talk with people. So those are our two largest ways that we connect with actually both sides of our market.
And I hadn't thought about this until Mike came in today. Mike owns a music store here, lots of music stores here in Kansas City. Most people who have kids who play instruments rent from Mike, from the Myers family. Do you have any plans for working with brick and mortar stores?
That's a great question too, because as we become more well known, and we've actually had pieces featured on festivals, we've had brick and mortars contact us to determine what our purchasing process is. And right now, we do not wholesale music, but we're working on selling up an affiliate program so that at least the brick and mortars that are supporting performances and festivals will be able to make something off of the transaction as well.
Yeah, because for here in Kansas City, Meyer Music is the go-to for music teachers in Kansas City.
And we need to talk afterwards.
Absolutely. I think he can provide you a great perspective on how to work with those brick and mortar businesses. The other question I had was, I noticed that you had great performances online, but I also noticed that some of the quality of the recordings weren't great. Do you have any plans to support the composers, the musicians, maybe send them resources on how to get a better recording? There seemed to be a bit of coughing and laughter, which we appreciate, but it made it a little bit harder to kind of muddle the music.
Yes, and that is one of the pitfalls of live performances, right? People are coughing, people are unwrapping candy, sometimes there's a baby crying in the background. So we also have plans to, some of our conductors that support us that are on the site are willing to do read-throughs with their university choirs and get a clean recording to put up. There are also other resources out there for individuals who will actually record all the parts themselves and then put them together digitally. So it's not as bad as a MIDI recording from a computer. It's still live human voices singing. So yeah, definitely we have resources for that as well.
And my last question is about your accelerator experience. There's a lot of people here. We have some great accelerator programs here in Kansas City, but I think when you're reading through the programming for an accelerator, it can be hard to figure out as a startup what your takeaway is going to be for that program. Can you talk a little bit about maybe your biggest benefit that you saw from participating in the accelerator program?
Absolutely. I always tell people this. I was actually surprised that we got accepted into the accelerator because we didn't have a single line of code written. And I thought, well, surely you have to have something coded somewhere to get into this accelerator program. And the truth is you don't. And in fact, it's better if you don't, because I think the biggest takeaway that we learned from the accelerator program is to do your customer development first. Don't go build a bunch of stuff that you think is cool or that you think solves the problem until you find out what the actual problem is. So go do your customer development, find out what the problem is, find out what they want, and then build that for them. And in fact, I speak about it regularly now, stop selling and start solving. Stop selling products and start solving problems. And if you get that problem solution down first and you build what your customers want, then you don't have to go out and sell stuff. They beat a path to your door. Yeah.
Okay, we'd like to open it up to the audience. There's a question in the center.
Hi, Jennifer. First of all, thank you so much. This has been one of my favorite presentations I've been seeing so far, and I really love how you do with social media. Have you also thought about, especially with YouTube and also Instagram, and how that would tie into Music Spoke?
Yes, absolutely. We do have a YouTube channel. I don't think we use it very regularly, and we do have Instagram as well. But right now it's just the two of us, and so there's only so much that we can do in one day. And while we have captured these other social media channels, I feel like it's best to do one or two really well. And then once you get those down, come back and start adding other ones in. We even have Pinterest and post things for music educators there. But that's not where our referral traffic is coming from. So that's not where we spend our time. So right now it's heavily Facebook and Twitter, and then we'll add these things in down the line as well. Yeah, thank you.
Another question in the center.
Hi, great idea, great presentation. My question is, you were talking about how when somebody purchases, they can get a digital download for it. What about a small organization, maybe a small church that might need, say, 15 copies, but don't have a way to make a quality print of 15 copies, or maybe feel that their printer at home? Do you also provide a way to send printed out copies of your sheet music for people that maybe just have a regular printer that doesn't do good enough?
That's a great question. When we initially launched, I was afraid that there would be pushback on that, digital downloads only. And so we actually had all these scores set up ready to do print on demand just in case. And in over a year, it's not been an issue a single time. What we found is that, because we're working with black and white PDFs, these are not handwritten scores. They come out of notation software to begin with, so they're very crisp and clean. And we found that anybody that's had a struggle with it just takes them to Kinko's and prints them off. It has not been an issue. So if that does become an issue down the road, we'll set up for print on demand, and we might have a different pricing schedule, but it just hasn't been an issue so far.
We have a question in the middle here.
Hi, Jennifer. I love this model. It's a little bit disruptive, which I always like. Thinking about especially the institutions that have been buying from the publishers probably for years, what do you think your challenges are in changing that mindset and getting more to the end users, which I know in a school especially the end users may not be making any decisions. It may be at a department level or even at a higher up level. I'm just curious what your strategy is for getting away from those kind of mindsets.
Yeah, they are a little bit nervous right now. So when we've done our customer development calls and we've talked to conductors and music educators and we ask them, how do you buy your music now? How do you find it? And a lot of times they find it by going to conferences, but most times they look at other conductors and see what they're programming. And then they go after that music. Or they go after a specific composer because they know that composer's music. So a lot of it is changing the mindset of don't just go to where you normally go online to look for music, but these are alternatives, and we have the composers you're looking for. Some of that will also change when we have our curated content pages, when we have conductors listing the pieces that they're performing and why they're performing and supporting them. Because we want to be the source not only for artist-owned sheet music, but high quality, right, that people are looking for, that they want to perform, that they want to program at festivals and things like that. And then some of it, if it's higher up decision making, I just call school systems, and I send them a form, and I said, would you like us to get you set up on our PO system? And they go, okay, sure. So sometimes you just ask.
Jennifer, I've got a quick question for you. Is there any move towards the sheet music actually becoming a digital format, whether it's a tablet on the stand in front of kids or something like that?
You bet. We see, there's still smaller numbers, but we see about a 15% increase in people reading music off of their iPads. Kurt actually just had a conversation with an educator out in western Nebraska who said that their elementary school now has iPads for all the children, and they're only reading sheet music in elementary school off of iPads. So as we go along, we're going to see that increase more and more, and there are apps out there for it, but you can also just use a PDF reader if it's not behind some kind of digital rights management wall. And they make little pedals. They have foot pedals, so you can turn pages. You can tap it with your foot. Somebody's developing some software now that follows the eyes, right? So it turns it when you get to the bottom of the music line. So there are definitely cool things like that happening as well.
Question on your right.
And maybe I missed it, but what prevents an individual from buying one copy and printing 100 of them, and so they're only in for $2 as opposed to 200 in that case?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, you could technically walk into a brick and mortar and you could buy a piece of sheet music and you can go photocopy it. It's still illegal, right? It's illegal either way. So when somebody makes a purchase on our website, the PDF is stamped at the bottom with the number of copies, who it's licensed to, and the date to make a singular instance of that transaction. And then it references the licensing agreement on our website. So what we've actually found is because when a composer makes a sale, we notify them immediately and we let them know who purchased the music. We also follow up individually with single score purchases to say, hey, was this a perusal copy? Or is this for, are you part of a festival? And we get a good response from that. But because we have that transparency of letting the composer know who purchased their music, we've actually been able to catch people who did purchase a single copy and then programmed it for a 130-person festival. And we can go back and say, hey, we're so glad you enjoyed that piece. Here's the invoice for the other 129 copies. It's not possible with traditional publishing because composers don't know.
Okay, we got another question in the center.
What are you, great concept, by the way. What are you finding from the composers as to which aspects of what you offer are most appealing to them? Because you actually offer quite a few things. It's not just more money. I'm sure they love seeing their stuff being published so much faster than with the old model, but there's some other benefits as well. So I was just curious where you're finding the best, the most appeal from the composers.
So I think it depends. We have a wide range of ages and career stages of composers on our platform. There are some composers that have 100 pieces in print and have 100 pieces that they've self-published, and they're just excited to not deal with the hassle anymore, right? The thing about composers is that they're artists, they're musicians. They don't want to do sales, they don't want to do marketing, they don't do coding. They want to make music. They want to make the world a beautiful place, and we take all of that off of their plate. One of our composers used to sell music off of her own website, and when she came on board, she said, this is so amazing, I don't have to deal with this anymore, and now she just has links from her website to MusicSpoke. So we take all of that off of their plates, all of the customer service, all of the sales, all of the marketing, all of the businessy stuff. One of our composers who turned down a deal from a major publisher, it was his dream to be published by this particular publishing house. And he put his piece up on MusicSpoke, and it started selling like hotcakes. And this company came to him and offered him a contract. And, like, this was his dream, right? And he sat and he thought about it, and he calculated it out, and he realized that he would have to sell 9 times more scores with his publisher, give up control of his works, right? So when you give up control, if they don't want to do another press run, they just don't do another press run. Your piece just dies. You don't own it anymore, so you can't email it to somebody. And so he turned them down. We've also seen, the amazing part of this too, there's such a great community around musicians, but these composers that are on board, and we have over 50 composers on board right now, by the way, these composers on board have formed their own community, and they're promoting each other, and they're promoting each other's music on Facebook and on Twitter. And it's really great to see that kind of camaraderie. It's the idea that, you know, we all rise together. And so that's been great to see as well.
So one last final question. What can we as a community do to help you?
Yes. I know we're not supposed to ask for social media, but we do get about 60% of our referral traffic from social media. So Facebook and Twitter is huge for us. But if you have any music educators in your life, if your kids are in chorus or band, if you sing in a church choir, if you take instrument, you know, if you take lessons, please let the conductors and music educators and performers in your lives know about MusicSpoke, and let them know that there are additional resources to find high quality new music to perform. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Share with us. All right, if you were selected to be part of the Mug Club, now's your chance. Come on up. We've got a surprise for you. All right, here we go. I'm not going to tell you what the surprise is for the Mug Club. You're going to have to guess. All right, here you go. Take that, take that, take that. Please do me a favor. Tell us your name, what you do, and why you love coming to, or, you know, something about 1 Million Cups and why you're always here.
Stephanie Lashley, account manager for Riverpoint Group, and I love 1 Million Cups because of the networking opportunity, the faces that you see, not only familiar faces, but new faces as well.
I'm Ernesto Suarez with Ariel Media, and I just love being here. It's awesome inspiration. I mean, once you leave here, you really get things done a lot quicker and in a much better way than if you didn't come here. And it's not just the coffee. It's really the energy that you get from being around such awesome people.
Hi, I'm Neil Steiner, and I second what Ernesto said. I just love being here. I'm a regular. I've been coming, I think, for 3 years. I'm just a serial entrepreneur. I start a lot of things to get rid of them and start something else. So I just enjoy the energy here. Thank you.
Guys, congratulations. All right, we're ready? All right, we've got a quick video from the 1 in a Million competition we'd like to show you.
We're looking for 1 in a million. What does 1 in a million look like? Have you ever seen it? Does it look like this? Or this? If you've ever presented at a 1 Million Cups gathering held every week in more than 70 locations across the country, then maybe 1 in a million looks like you. This year, for the first time ever, open exclusively for 1 Million Cups entrepreneurs, the 1 in a Million Startup Showdown will be a featured event during Global Entrepreneurship Week. 1 in a Million was created to provide educational resources to entrepreneurs and showcase some of the stellar startups in the 1 Million Cups community. 15 finalists will be selected to come to the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation in Kansas City on November 17th and 18th, where they will receive coaching and gain valuable insights to sharpen their startups. The top 5 startups will be selected to take the stage for a first-of-its-kind Wednesday morning presentation that will be streamed live to all 1 Million Cup sites across the country. The winning startup takes home $10,000. Here's what you need to know. Your startup must have presented at a 1 Million Cups before August 2nd, 2015. Your startup must be younger than 5 years old and based in the United States. Your startup should have plans to grow with a scalable and disruptive business model. Don't wait to submit your company for this nationwide competition. 1 in a Million will accept applications through August 7th. That's it. Actually, there's more to it than that. So visit us on the web to learn more about how your startup can become 1 in a million.
Okay, thank you. If you're interested in applying for that, but you have yet to present at a 1 Million Cups, we are booked up here in Kansas City, but there are some other 1 Million Cups programs, Lawrence, St. Joe, Columbia, Springfield, Tulsa, Omaha, possibly. So if you're real hungry to get into this, you will need to apply to a different city. If you need any help or have questions about applying, please come see one of us organizers up front after the program. All right, we're ready to move on to Rachel Kibler-Mebley from ArtFuse. I'm anxious to see what she has for us. Come on up. Let's give a hand to Rachel.
Imagine walking in your front door and telling Siri that you want to see art. And then in your living room on your TV, you can see Van Gogh or Caravaggio, or one of our contemporary artists like Amy Wright or Lynn Benson. That's what we're doing with ArtFuse. ArtFuse connects people with art and artists, and we pay artists royalties. Our first product is streaming. It's a monthly subscription service for streaming art to your TV. We're doing this for multiple reasons. One is that it's so easy to surround ourselves with music and TV and movies. They're very pervasive in our daily lives, but we don't have that same thing with art. Art is often relegated to a museum or a gallery. We want to bring art into an everyday experience, make it more accessible for everyone. We also believe very strongly in treating artists fairly. We pay our artists royalties, including during this beta period. We give them data on where their work is being seen and how much. And we treat our artists like partners rather than commodities, which we think is very important. Then we're also very excited about the future of technology and bringing art into the technological age. That includes 3D art, so that you could walk around David in your living room, tactile art, where you could touch a Monet, educational components, where you can listen to a curator talk about the important aspects of various paintings, and many others. The streaming service is just the first step. We launched our beta 2 weeks ago, which we're very pleased with and a little embarrassed. We are giving our artists data on where their work is being seen. We're launching our artist dashboards this week. We have 15,000 public domain works in our collection and just shy of 200 contemporary works in our collection. Our collection is searchable by artist and title, and a number of works are also searchable by feature, color, and mood. We've developed a web app for Chromecast, and we're working on mobile development as well as Apple TV and Amazon Fire. We'll also develop for Roku, Blu-ray, other platforms. We've been working on this for a year and a half, and we've made our share of mistakes. I'm sure we will make many more. One of our biggest mistakes was not understanding what our MVP was. We could have launched 6 months, even a year ago, had we just sat down and thought clearly, what do we need to launch? Another mistake that we've made is trying to compare ourselves to a competitor. We found this competitor after we had been at it for a few months, and this competitor had $17 million and well-connected staff. They had press all over the place, and they were growing, and they kept adding features and adding more features and growing more. But they imploded. A month ago, they closed up shop. They ran out of money, they ran out of time, and we're learning from their lessons. We are bootstrapping, which we hope is not a mistake, but it may be. And we're growing only as much as we can afford to and as much as we can handle. We want to do streaming paintings really well before we get into anything else. We've also thought about closing up shop at least 4 times in the last year and a half. Google Chromecast started offering art as their default screen when we found this competitor, when we've met with enthusiasm without buy-in, and all those moments of self-doubt that every entrepreneur feels. But each time we come back to this and say, no, there is a market for this, and we can build it and fill it at the same time. We're a team of 3. I'm the CEO, I'm a lawyer by training, and I run the day-to-day operations and focus on strategic partnerships with museums and galleries and arts organizations. So I focus on those and to bring artists in, to bring larger artists and larger collections in, as well as to give them something in return. That data is very, very crucial. Carl does our technical work, and he's my husband, so I'm rather fond of him. And Steve speaks the language of artists, and he is invaluable in recruiting artists, explaining to them what they have to gain from being in our collection, and keeping them happy. So as a team, we are reinventing the modern art gallery. I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and get started with our panel.
Okay, so this one was a little harder for me, and I spent a lot of time on your site. So the positives were site's super clean, well organized. I was challenged by I really could never see pricing. I could never find out what is this, how much does this cost me, how would I implement this somewhere. And I'm not in the art world, but if I go to a site like that and I can't find the answers I'm looking for, I leave, and I'm never coming back. So that would be something I would probably, I know you're early on in the process, that I would probably look at.
Press that quickly?
Yeah.
Okay, so right now we are in our beta period, which is free to users, and we are paying royalties at a relative percentage of $2.50 per user. We are still working on our pricing. Right now, I think we're going to do $6 for public domain art and $10 for everything in the collection that includes contemporary art. But we haven't put that online yet because we're still working out the details. And then we'll do custom installations for larger fees for businesses.
So that's $10 a month, $10 a year?
$10 a month.
Okay, all right. Then how many, have you looked into how much streaming of a person's art, essentially because that's what you're doing is streaming their art, how much do you have to stream as an artist for an artist to make a relevant amount of money off of this?
Well, our royalties work based on the user. So $2.50 per user, or 25% once we start charging for it, is set out for royalties. And so a user or an artist receives a relative percentage of that depending on how much their work is shown alongside other contemporary artists. So if a user shows 2 works of contemporary art the entire month and they're only for 30 minutes each of those artists would receive $1.25. If they show it if they show 10 artists over the course of a month, it would be divided up that way. So it's not so much how much time a user is showing a work of art, but how many users are showing that work of art.
So if I'm an artist and I'm going to get $2.50, that's a tough pill for me to swallow, having been around some of these folks. And I don't think it's that different than the music people. I think that the one piece that I really didn't see that I'm wondering if you can incorporate into this is a sales opportunity for that artist.
Yes.
Because that would appear to me to be where an artist is really going to get excited about it if they can eventually sell a piece.
Yes. Each artist has a bio page on our site, which drives traffic to their site so that they can sell originals. The benefit of ArtsFuse is that it allows them a continual revenue stream even after they sell a piece, that they can do with those digitized images whatever they want, and they can continue to make money even after they sell the original for $200 or $1,000 or $10,000. It's a continuous revenue stream.
Okay, last piece of advice. Some of the best business deals that we've had over the past 30 years were from competitors imploding. And that's a little harsh to say, but I wouldn't be afraid to reach out to the guy that just imploded and offer them pennies on the dollar for pieces of their equipment that you need or pieces of their model that you like, because they could be very motivated to do that. And if it's down the tubes, it's down the tubes.
He is not terribly happy with me right now.
Well, I'm sure he's not, but I'm not really worried about whether he's happy with me or not. I'm going to walk in and if there's a piece to my business, and like so we've several competitors over many years have gone under, and I've seen the value of a piece of their business that they have, and they can't do anything with it now.
Right.
So don't be afraid to do that.
Okay.
Great feedback. Great feedback. I'm going to piggyback on one of his questions about selling the art. You mentioned that you were going to be directing those buyers to that other person's website. I think you might be missing an opportunity to demonstrate your value to that artist if you're not able to track, because it's happening on somebody else's website. You're not able to track what the sales, what your promotion has done for that particular artist. So you may want to look at pulling in kind of an Etsy model that allows them to sell through your platform, or at least initiate the sale through your platform so that you can track those sales, because they're all looking for a place to promote their art. But like Mike said, $2.50 doesn't make a huge impact over time.
That's a good point. We've been hesitant to get into the sale of art, in part because of taxes, because we just don't want to deal with that, but also because we do believe very strongly in treating artists fairly, and we want them to reap all of the benefits from selling their original instead of trying to take a cut of that. We want them to profit from their work as much as possible.
Well, then you might want to look at helping them sell it without making it a profit. I'll also remind you that the people who pay taxes are the ones who are making money. So if you can help them make money and you're making money, it really, everybody, all ships rise with the tide. Also, a little bit of feedback on the website. I would give yourself a little bit more robust about page. Maybe look at the previous presenter. They've got a great website that was very clear, and it's also targeted to artists. It's a very similar model. So I would look at the things that, and maybe compare yours apples to apples, the pieces that you're missing. But it was that about page. It was really how it works, where I think both of us struggled with really figuring out how the whole thing works for the artist perspective. I did reach out to a couple of my friends that are artists here, visual artists here in the Kansas City market. And while they were very excited, they mentioned that their only concern, or that their potential concern in the artist community, would be devaluing their art. What are your feedback for that?
We are carefully curating our contemporary collection. We're making sure that all of the artists are proud to be seen alongside other artists, so it raises a value for all of the artists. As far as devaluing, there will always be people who want to own originals, and we applaud that. Our platform is more geared towards businesses who want to show a wide selection of art, and millennials with more taste than money who can't afford those originals. So we don't anticipate artists being artists losing out on sales of originals because of our platform. Rather, they can sell the original and still make money off of the copyright that they own.
And then my question is about the artist. What is your target artist for your platform? Local, independent artists, or more mainstream?
Both. We're focusing on Kansas City right now. We're looking to reach a critical mass of artists in Kansas City before we spread out to other Midwest cities and then the coast and then international. We're starting with independent artists who don't get a lot of exposure. But we are also pursuing some artists who have works in museums, some bigger named artists. We care more about the appearance of the art on the screen rather than the names of the artists. So, go back. Like this work, it looks just as good on a screen as it does in person. And so we're looking for art that looks captivating on screen.
I previously ran a business incubator in Independence, and one of the issues that we had was blank white walls that really detracted from the overall feel of our environment. And I reached out to the Arts Council, and they had an arts lending program where I could get different pieces of art. I'm not sure if you've looked at their model, but they're charging about I think it was like the low end was about $150 a month that they were going to charge. And we were actually, even as a small nonprofit, looking at doing that because of the variety of art that we could bring. So I think, in my opinion, you could probably charge a bit more for these subscriptions, depending on, once again, if it's business or an individual.
For businesses, we will charge more, especially for multiple screens, because we anticipate them not wanting just one screen, but having 3 or 4. And then we'll charge more with doing those custom installations.
And then my last question is, have you reached out to Diane Scott with Artist Inc. program?
No.
Okay, I would definitely encourage you to do that. If you can talk to some Artist Inc. artists, that would be a great pool because those folks understand business as well as art. And then definitely get on Diane's calendar.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's open it up to our studio audience. Here we go. Got one on your right.
How did you get interested in this, you being a non-visual artist?
It's not a very interesting story. We had a different idea. My co-founders met in the EMBA program at UMKC. Steve worked at a museum, and my husband is very into technology and how we can use that. And so we talked about having a museum marketing app, and then we were brainstorming and thinking about how we could make it bigger, how we could connect art to people, not just museums to people. And using the available technology, this came up, and it was so much more exciting. I am a creative person, not a visual artist, but still a creative person.
And just to let you know, the Arts KC has the Now Showing program, which rotates between businesses and artists, where businesses are charged $150, artists get 120 of that to show at these businesses. And then also Diane left Arts KC, and it's now, I forget the name, but I'll remember it by the end and get with you later.
Thank you.
Got a question in the back on your left.
Good morning.
Hi.
I love your confidence, and particularly I love this slide because it illustrates that you've got your higher order feedback loop going. You're being self-critical and looking at lessons learned. But I wanted to check out something that you said authoritatively, and it was, if I have more taste than money, does that make me a millennial?
No.
Yes, it does. No.
Question here in the middle.
Yes.
Hi there. I am down at the Art Institute a lot. I teach in the illustration department, and I find that the professors, as well as some of the senior students, are creating beautiful artwork that feels very modern and that displays very well on a screen, like the piece you've shown there. Have you reached out to professors at the Art Institute, or their students, either for feedback or potentially for some modern feeling art that might be a good inclusion?
We've reached out to a few. We will reach out to more. Yeah, they're on our list.
Got a question in the back on the left again.
Thank you. Do you have any plans to work with fine art photographers?
Fine art photographers to digitize the paintings, yes. Fine art photographers to get their work into our collection, not right now. We want to do streaming paintings very well first before we figure out how to spread into photography. We don't want to dilute what we have, and there are also a lot more legal issues surrounding photography than there are paintings.
On your left right here.
Good morning, Rachel. Now that I'm awake, I can actually ask you this question.
Excellent.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about this first point that you have on the learning process, that is not understanding your MVP?
Sure. We overbuilt. We could have done a custom installation like we have at Snow and Company right now. We could have done that a year ago, having a few artists in our collection showing Kansas City art, and we didn't need to build the artist dashboard or the user dashboard. We could have done it all. We could have hacked it together without having to go through all of the building that we've done. We've just built too much. Well, no, a little embarrassed, but pleased with what we've built so far, and we will continue to build on that, but we just built too much.
Question in the back.
Good morning. Have you reached out to property managers? I know that a lot of them use like a tenant software in the lobby. You could do a strategic partnership with maybe one of them, but I mean, for scale, you could just buy a list of the largest property managers in the United States and just start at the top and go down.
We have some connections to property managers here in Kansas City that we're going to start with. We wanted to get our installation at Snow and Company done so that we could have something to direct them to before we started reaching out to people.
I've got a question for you. So, like, when I look at the photo that you have behind you of that installation, you've got, you know, if a place has a blank wall they want to put some art up on, you obviously have to run power to that monitor. You have to hang the monitor, and I assume you're plugging it into the web. Is that correct?
We offer a couple of different ways. We've developed for Chromecast, which connects to Wi-Fi, but we also do custom installations with mini computers that we just attach to the back. It doesn't use any internet, it just uses power. So we are able to do that for places with high internet traffic so that we don't interrupt that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, is that kind of an add-on? I mean, I assume it's an add-on, but is that keeping you guys somewhat busy when somebody has an installation they need? Is that something you're prepared for? Or is that like, oh, great, we got to go do this for half a day to, you know?
It takes an hour. It's not very long. It just
Okay.
takes some programming, which my husband is very talented at.
Excellent.
Question here in the middle. Can you tell us a little bit more just about local competition? Now, you've touched a little bit like on what Chromecast was doing and so forth, but what about just local competitors? Is there anyone out there?
No. That competitor that imploded was the only one that we found doing this. And there's the art scene, some of the people in the art scene here are also kind of unhappy with us because we are disruptive and offering art in a different way, not requiring people to go to museums and galleries. So we have competition here just in the physical sense of people still wanting people to come into their galleries, which we encourage but don't require.
What type of feedback do you get from local artists? Like, I think you mentioned you're in Snow and Company. Mm-hmm. Are you in one location or both?
Just one location right now. The feedback from him was actually, from Jerry Nevins over at Snow and Company, was terribly positive. As soon as he heard about our idea, he said, this would save me so much time, which, as we know, time is what business owners is most valuable to business owners. He spends a lot of his time talking to artists who want to hang stuff in their bar, and if he can say, go to ArtsFuse and you'll be on our wall and you'll get paid, that is a much better answer for him.
So it's an interesting thing. Most of the other large paintings that are up at Snow & Co. at both locations were painted by my father-in-law.
Oh.
So you're actually my competitor.
We don't have to be competitors. That's the beauty of this. We can show digitized art, but also have the original there. One great thing about ArtsFuse is that it can show companion pieces. So if your father-in-law wanted to show a piece that's at the Gladstone location, but goes well with the pieces that are in the Crossroads, he can show it there. It won't be as big unless we put a very large TV there, but he can show those companion pieces, which is one thing that we're looking for with museums and galleries, that the Caravaggio at the Nelson can be shown alongside the Caravaggio, oh, I don't know where another Caravaggio is, but another Caravaggio, that the Monet exhibition that was in town a year ago can still be here to show those works alongside other companion pieces.
Where else do you have any work in the city? I think I saw a tweet from the ECJC promoting you guys a little bit, maybe a while ago? I don't know.
Snow & Company is our only installation right now.
Okay.
We are rolling out our beta to individual users over the course of this month.
Okay, cool. Milton, are you ready?
So our final question is, as a community, what can we do to help you?
I have a slide for this.
Excellent.
We are looking for beta users. If you are an individual or own a business or know a business who wants to show captivating art in ordinary spaces, let us know. We can do custom installations with those mini computers, or we can use Chromecast, whatever works. If you know an artist whose work would look great on a screen, let us know. And if you have marketing expertise and want to share it, or have other advice, or just think that we are doing something completely wrong, we also want to know that. All of this can be sent to hello@artsfuse.com, or if you prefer the more casual one, howdy@artsfuse.com will also come to us. Yeah, we'd love input.
Thank you so much for presenting today. Well, we want to thank everyone for coming out to 1 Million Cups again. We'll be here next Wednesday, same time, same place. Also just got a note that I guess the storm is getting ready to hit the plaza area pretty hard. So if you parked across the street, you might want to get out there before it starts to rain hard. Thank you.